Hello there and welcome back to another edition of Silly Car Showdown. Today we are taking a look at the Mazda MX-5, more specifically the Super 20. This came at the request of Scotian Racer, who said he'd like to see a Mazda MX-5. He wasn't specific about which MX-5, so I picked for him, and I picked the Super 20. A, because it's a rare car in this game, and B, because it's a rather fascinating Mazda MX-5. Basically built to commemorate 20 years of the Mazda MX-5, this one features a supercharged Cosworth engine. Fantastic. Of course, well, that's all well and good, probably not going to stick with its stock engine. Another reason I chose this one is because it's the highest PI by default, which might give it some more fast credibility. Of course, we can't sort the drivetrain in this series, so it's going to stay rear-wheel drive. What engines do we have? 3.7 litre V6, 6. Wow, okay, you can stick the V8 in this vehicle, interesting. Or we can stick the 4-rotor in it. We haven't had a play with a 4-rotor yet, and Scotian specifically said something about a 4-rotor, so that's the engine we're going with. Of course, going with the 4-rotor basically means we're not actually going to have much room for many other upgrades other than the 4-rotor. But, I mean, why would you need more upgrades when you've got the 4-rotor? A fantastic engine that's going to make a fantastic noise. Alright, what tyres can we get on this? 265s on front and on the rear. I think it's 245s all around on this car, so 265s on the rears. Probably the biggest tyres you're going to find on an MX-5 to my knowledge. Maybe the ND Forza Edition has bigger tyres. Unfortunately, we haven't got our hands on that yet. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised this came with the V8, so we can make a 1,000 horsepower MX-5. That is an interesting idea, certainly. Right, we might have to have a play with that at some point. This one probably going to come mostly pre-tuned as well. I see there's no suspension mods on this thing. Apparently no roll cage mod either, which is rather interesting, but there is weight reduction, which is going to bring us down to 2,255 pounds, and to top it all off, remove the restrictions on the engine, and there we go. Not as high a PI as I was expecting it to be, but there you go. That is the MX-5. All done and built up. So, as we back out of this menu, what do we have? We have 736 horsepower, 477 foot-pound torque, 2,244 pounds of weight, 52% front weight distribution, R827 PI, front engined rear drive. This one, I'm expecting good things out of. I don't know whether I'm going to get them though. Alrighty, to find out how the Mazda MX-5 Super4Rotor gets on, it is going to get 7 laps of the Brands Hatch Indy track to set the best time it possibly can. Our current leader is Lotus Elise GT12, that has a 43.846. The Mazda MX-5 probably not going to be competing with that vehicle as we try and get this off the line. Also, correction on whatever the time was on the Polaris, I probably corrected it in the actual video itself, but of course, when I record a couple of these in a row, I forgot to add the previous car's lap times onto the board, but I've added them now, which is good. As far as where I think the MX-5 is going to go, honestly, low R-Class car, it'll probably go somewhere around the Subaru Brat and the Nissan Safari Superlight, I think. Maybe the Pacer as well, so between about 48 and 40... somewhere between 48 and 50 seconds, I think, honestly, is where the MX-5 is going to go. Now, similar to the Polaris from last time, the 787B engine, similar to the Ariel Atom engine, is one of the most responsive engines in the game. This is a very, very rev-happy engine. If you think the Lexus LFA engine's rev-happy, you haven't met the 787B motor, whatever this is. I think, is it called like 26 something? I don't know engine codes. I don't care enough to know engine codes, but as a result, because it climbs revs so fast, it does become a bit of an issue when you put it into a car, because basically the car now has to deal with, you know, going from 0 horsepower going into the wheels to all 700 at once, which is quite terrifying, especially in cars that were not made to have that much power. And as a result, you can sort of see the MX-5 sliding out on me every now and again, but when it's not doing that, it is surprisingly, oh wow, 48.311. It is quicker than I thought it was going to be. Okay. That does actually make it rather quick. This thing, maybe this can compete with the Zenvo. The Zenvo in this should be actually pretty similar in PI, as strange as it is to say a Zenvo ST1 is similar to a Mazda MX-5 with a 4-rotor in it. But that is correct. You can sort of see when I put my foot down just what happens to the engine. It just all goes to peak RPMs instantly. It is rather crazy. The amusing thing is, when the engine isn't just throwing all of its powers to the rear wheels, this is actually a surprisingly nice car to drive. Well, I say it's surprising. MX-5's of course always been excellent chassis. But this one, yeah, it's a really very nice car to drive. The 265 tyres had me slightly worried, but maybe because this car is sort of so light and so agile, it seems to be getting away without having silly big tyres. Which is nice. Oh god. Just how quick that power comes on. We're going to go off here, bollocks. We've still got a couple of laps with the MX-5 though, which is nice. Yeah, surprisingly good car to actually live with around this course. Of course, the thing with the 4Rotor is it's great for making a car silly. It makes a fantastic noise and all that. But truth be told, as an engine swap, it's actually not one of the better units in the game. Sure, it's rev happy, but that usually causes more issues than it solves. You know, sure, you could get a decent amount of power out of it. 716 horsepower, I think it is out of this when it's got the restrictors removed. But the thing is, most of the engine swaps will get more of that. The Honda VTEC unit, which you might rag on a bit, Honda VTEC unit actually gets around the same amount of power as this engine does. This is, I think, the least powerful of all of the engine swaps. Save from the Turbo Rally. Turbo Rally only gets about 500 horsepower once the restrictors are removed, and that's good because back in Forza 5 it only got about 373 horsepower with restrictors off. So yeah, the Turbo Rally is probably the weakest of all of the engine options that you can get, but the 4Rotor, again, sure, makes a car very silly, and I love it to death. I love rotary engines as much as the next person does, but as far as this being like a good functional swap, you would be better off with different engines, you know? I mean, just take a look at this car. The V6 can get more power, probably be a lot easier to control, and if you want outright power, you've got the V8 available first. Now, admittedly, I don't think the V8's available for all the MX-5s. This is the only one I actually remember seeing it in. Maybe it is in more of them in this game. Even the V6, I'm not actually sure if that carries over. I think most of the MX-5s just stick with the two rotary engines. This one seems to be the only outlier that doesn't have the 13B engine available for it, which makes sense because this is the most powerful. Well, this is more powerful than that 230 horsepower RX-8 engine. So, yeah, it's an interesting sort of concept, choosing between whether you should go for outright rotary power or just sort of stick with a conventional engine. I mean, personally, I always go rotary just because that noise. I mean, listen to it. It's fantastic. It is a fantastic noise to come out of these things. But yeah, if you're sort of going for a practical race car, maybe best off not going for this engine. Although it is in some rather silly cars, this engine, so you will see it crop up a bit in this series because, yeah, when silly engines are allowed in cars, they are going in. And, well, there we go. A 47.775 actually means this beats a Zenvo ST1. Wow. Yeah, okay. What was it? 47.775? Yeah, that will actually put it quite high up on the leaderboard. In fact, that will put it into 4th place. It beats the Mitsubishi GTO, the car that was sort of made to kind of take on the BMW i8. MX-5's quicker. It is slightly down on the NASCAR 928 GTS, but a very solid performance from the MX-5. Yeah, wasn't really sure how this one was going to go, but I'm pleased it went well because I do like the Mazda MX-5, and the Super 20 is a pretty cool car. Yeah, I'll definitely be driving this one a little bit more now that I know it's factory supercharged, and that does improve things. Yeah, anyways, I want to thank you all very much for watching this edition of the Silly Cars Showdown. As always, my name's been Emile. You can check my stuff out in the description box below. Yeah, thanks for watching, and until next... Oh, and also, feel free to request your own cars for this series if you would like to do so. But yeah, thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.